Welcome back to FM Storey. The last episode saw the end of our time at Motherwell. Time now for a quick review of what we achieved during the save, and then also just to fast forward 10 years just to see whether the club manages to maintain this period of dominance, or, as I suspect, based on the transfer offers we've had in the last couple of seasons, how long it takes for the squad to be picked apart and how long before the status quo of Rangers and Celtic dominates. It took us a little while to get going in the save. Season 1, we managed to finish in the top half before the split. We made it to the semi-finals of the Scottish Cup and the quarter-finals of the League Cup. Season 2 was much better. We ended up finishing third. Not quite so good in the cup competitions, but the league form certainly picked up. And then Season 3 saw us win our first trophy, winning the League Cup. It was our first foray into Europe as well. And we got knocked out in the qualifying rounds of the Conference League. The squad just wasn't good enough at that stage. Season 4 saw us retain the League Cup, and we also managed to make it through to the quarterfinal of the Conference League. At this point, we're starting to think that we might have a chance of overhauling the dominance of Rangers and Celtic. Season 5 saw us win the Scottish Cup and make it into the knockout stages of the Conference League again, and we actually finished second in the league. Season 6, we did drop back down to third, and actually, aside from making it to the quarterfinals of the Europa League, it was a pretty disappointing season on all fronts, that one. A bit of a step back. Season 7 saw us win the Scottish Cup, get to the final of the League Cup, and we made it to the quarterfinals of the Europa League. And we were starting to feel like a team that was on the up. And then Season 8 was really where things started to develop. Finishing second in the league, we somehow won the Europa League, which then led over into Season 9, where we won the league at a canter, 99 points, plus 110 goal difference. We won both cup competitions. We made it into the knockout stages of the Champions League as well. Season 10, somehow we managed to make it through to the Champions League final and then ended up losing in extra time, but won all the domestic competitions again. And then we had a bit of a drop-off after that in Champions League. Carried on winning the league. We won the Scottish Cup again and made it to the final of the League Cup. Season 12, again, won the league, won the Scottish Cup, semi-final of the League Cup, and then we only just made it into the knockout stages of the Champions League. Season 13, again, won the league and the cup, semi-final of the League Cup, and we made it to the last 16 of the Champions League. And then Season 14 was just an outstanding season. We won the league with 100 points, we won the cup, we won the League Cup, and somehow we won the Champions League. We then followed that up the next season by winning the League Cup, the Champions League again, and the Super Cup. We then won the league, the cup, the League Cup, the Super Cup, but got knocked out in the semi-final by the eventual champions Real Sociedad of the Champions League. And then to end the save, we put together some decent back-to-back seasons. We won the league, made it to the cup final, won the League Cup, got back to winning the Champions League. And then we ended the save by winning the league, having lost one game with 107 points, winning the League Cup, winning the Super Cup, and then ending the save with a victory in the Champions League final again. In 18 seasons at the club, we managed to win 36 trophies. We won 10 league titles in a row. We won 9 Scottish Cups, 9 League Cups, 4 Champions Leagues, 1 Europa League, and 3 UEFA Super Cups. So obviously we had a successful time with Motherwell. Now, just to have a look at where things lie in terms of the Hall of Fame. So in terms of the English nationality, we've won 10 domestic titles, 18 domestic cups, 9 other trophies. We're well clear at the top of that Hall of Fame. In terms of the Hall of Fame for Scotland, having won 10 league titles, 18 cups, it brings us into third, behind Willie Maley and Bill Struth, but ahead of Jock Stein and Walter Smith, Brendan Rodgers. As far as European, it has us in sixth, 10 domestic titles, 18 cups, 8 other club trophies. The one missing would be the one we won after the Europa League, where we played the winner of the Copa Sudamericana. It has us only behind Pep Guardiola, Luis Enrique, Sergio Conceição, Alex Ferguson and Xavi, but ahead of likes of Thomas Tuchel, Carlo Ancelotti, Jurgen Klopp and Jose Mourinho. And then worldwide, we're down in 9th with that extra trophy. Now, to look at the best 11 from the save, this has actually changed about a bit since I looked at it at the end of the last season. So Liam Kelly is actually down as the number 1 goalkeeper. It was Zebra before that, who didn't play as many games but had a better average rating. I think actually probably the 2 best goalkeepers we had were Juan Medina and Ian Valem, but they probably didn't play enough games to get involved in this best 11. It's going to be dominated by players from the second half of the save. So obviously Amrani's in there, Rackler's in there, Thibaut, who left before the last season's in there. The surprise is the defensive midfield roles. Now, there was a spell where we played that flat 3 in midfield, which probably has hampered some of the other players that could have been involved. But surprised that Lakam's in there. I'm even more surprised that Geza Touré, someone who we signed in the first season, is in there. But then you get to the front 3, the front 4, in fact. You've got Cochise, who scored nearly 200 goals in 430-odd games. You got Rajkovic, who came in as basically a possible future player who, by the end of his first season, had proven himself to be a starter. You've got Alan Kerr, who we've had in 2 spells. And then you've got Jose Casanova, who got 200 and 274 games. Edging out Pedro Simoes, who's got 205 goals in 220 games. I think he's probably been hurt by his last season. His average rating would have dropped because of that. He ended up with 10 in 20 in his last season because of that damaged cruciate knee ligament that's been out for a long time. Obviously, you've got big players on the bench. Zebra, Samson Elise, who was an outstanding player. A strange mix. Nigerian with Australian second nationality was a strange one. Bordes, who came in from PSG when Fayette left and partnered Rackler exceptionally well at the back. You got Nuevo, who came in after we won the first title and the squad was picked apart and was a big part of our success from that point onwards. You got Isaac Babadian, Amane Romeo, who were there from early on in the save. So a real kind of mix, but mostly from the second half of the save where we've had all that success. But now the time has come to resign and to find out what the future holds for Motherwell. So the board would like to acknowledge the high-profile performance levels we're managing here. Thank you for your service. Wish you all the best in the future endeavours. 71% win record. Favourites for the job. So Thomas Tuchel, who's at Real Madrid. Fikayo Tomori, who's at Brentford. And Jordan Crooks, who's at Rennes. And then in terms of the rest of the backroom staff, a lot of people have left, including all the assistant managers and most of the coaches as well. In fact, is there anyone still left at the club? So we've now gone 10 years into the future and not an awful lot has actually changed by the looks of things. So looking at the league, our last season in charge was the 2040-41 season, where we finished first with 107 points. Motherwell have continued since we left on that run of titles. It's now 20 consecutive league titles. It does look like they have not got as many points as we did towards the end of our spell. We had, 5 seasons in a row there, over 100 points or more, and they've done that 3 times in the 10 years. They have done slightly better in the FIFA Club World Cup than we did. We made it to the second round twice. They finished third in the group, actually, so they got knocked out in the group stage in 2045. But in 2049, the most recent one, they made it to the semi-final. Champions League. So the last one we won was 2040-41, beating Man United. They actually went and won a third in a row by winning 2041-42 against Chelsea. Then we've got round of 16, quarter-final, semi-final, round of 16, quarter-final, round of 16, round of 16, quarter-final. And then in the most recent season, knocked out in the knockout playoff round. So things have dropped off a touch in European football. In terms of the Scottish Cup, so we lost to Rangers in the semi-final in our last season. They've won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in the last 10 seasons. And the League Cup, we won, beating Dunfermline to make it 5 in a row at the end of our time in charge. They've then won it once, twice, 3 times since then. Now, just to look at the transfers in terms of the outs, really, just to see where our squad got dismantled. So that was our last season in charge, where we signed Mikey Moore, we signed Bondarenko, we sold Bertrand Thibault. The following season, so basically as soon as we left, Bordes left, Van Giesel was going on a free transfer. They sold Bondarenko after 1 season. Varga went, Duda went, Alvarez went, and then in January of the first season, Rajkovic went and Alan Kerr went. Season 2 saw Duffy, Bustos, Cochise, Jordan Ash, Skafidis, Luciano, so Turnbull. So basically within 2 seasons, they've got rid of most of the squad. None of our signings went in the 3rd season. Or in the 4th. We're maybe starting to run out at the point where our players would have left. So there we go. The 2048-49 season, Amrani and Simowesh both left to go to Al Hilal. And then at the end of that season, Cameron Holm left on a free transfer to go to Auxerre. And then I think that is probably all of our players that have been actually sold that have gone. So looking at the squad just to see how many players are still there. The only player who is still there, well, in fact, there's 2 players that are still there from our time in charge. So the first one is Guillaume Valem, goalkeeper, who is still there, and I think he's now club captain. He's played 439 games, and that'll be league games for the club, and only conceded 265 goals in those games. He's now 36. He is wanted by Al Ittihad. He's played 166 times for Switzerland and scored a goal. And then the only other player that's still there is Mofa Keng, a South African goalkeeper who came through the youth intake. Hasn't played very many games, 31 league games in total. Only ended up making 24 appearances for South Africa, which is a surprise when you look at his attributes. So just a couple of other things to look at. So first, the managers and what happened. So we were replaced by Roberto De Zerbi. who left Liverpool to join Motherwell. He was there for just over 5 seasons, won 5 league titles in that time, 8 cups, including a Super Cup, 2 Super Cups, a Champions League. Really, really strong. He then left to go to Chelsea. Jack Clark is the head of youth development, so he stepped in for a little period. Then Memphis Depay came in for just under 3 years and picked up 3 league titles. And his managerial career, so after he retired, he had a short spell at Nantes, then a couple of seasons at Bologna, 1 season at AZ, 1 season at Arsenal, 5 seasons at Juventus. He came to Motherwell for 3 seasons, and then now he's at Real Madrid. And he's been then replaced by Scott Allardyce, who was a player in the Scottish leagues at the time that the save started. So when the save started, he was playing for Ross County. He had 1 season at Ross County, then he went to Dundee, then he finished his playing career at Cove Rangers, and then he's managed Kelty Hearts, Lincoln, Dundee United, then somehow got the Nice job, and then after a season in Nice, got the PSG job, then got the Napoli job, and now he's at Motherwell. So really interesting in terms of who's been and where they've come from and then where they've left to go to. And then the last thing just to look at, we looked at the best 11 at the end of our time in charge. And just to see how many of those players, or how many players from our time are still there. So we've got Valem, who's played 646 games for the club. Amrani was one of ours, Rackler, Fayette, Thibault, Turi. Somehow Turi and Lacam are still those 2 holding midfielders. Cochise, and then we've got a couple of players that weren't ours in Chaparro and Bamba. And you've got Casanova up front. And then all of the subs, I think, were ours: Kelly, Elise, Bordes, Kerr, Nuevo, Rajkovic. Somehow Pedro Simoes, having scored 380 goals in 476 games for the club, isn't good enough to be in the actual best 11. And there we have it. The save is over. We spent 18 seasons at Motherwell. We won 10 league titles in a row. We've fast forwarded 10 seasons and they've won another 10 league titles. I'm slightly surprised that everything didn't fall apart, and because the squad was picked off pretty quickly. But they've obviously maintained that dominance that we'd established at the top of the Scottish League. Thank you to everyone who's watched the series. There will be a new series along shortly, so hopefully you'll decide to check that out as well. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.